Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so the idea with this webinar is to just look at briefly the account overview and how to manage your Autodesk information, users, and the various software updates and everything related to Autodesk. All right. Okay, so the agenda is just we'll just introduce the topic, and then we'll go over to two main areas of focus. One is the desktop app, and the other is your Autodesk account. All right, and then we'll end with just summing up everything. All right, so the first thing, Autodesk is basically moving over from a serial-based system to a user-based system. Now, in the past, probably the last 20 years or so, Autodesk has, when you purchase software, has given you a serial number. That serial number you then used to activate the software, and everything was linked to the serial number. Now, they've progressed into a user-based system whereby these licenses that you purchase are now linked to a user or a specific email address or an account. All right, so the idea with this webinar is just to introduce you to this idea, and then also to allow you to manage these systems efficiently. All right, so the Autodesk Desktop App basically is a little app that gets installed when you install either AutoCAD, Revit, or any Autodesk software. You can also install it on its own if needed. So you can actually just install this prior to your whole downloading experience and that sort of thing, and it'll allow you to then use this app to create your installations and updates and everything. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. So it's primarily, as I mentioned, for the installation and keeping your product updated, and it's for the end user, so the person actually using the software. Think of a Autodesk or a Windows update tool. This is just an Autodesk update tool. Right, now looking at the software, once you open the software, once it's installed, maybe some other software has been installed and it piggybacked on that, it will allow you to, well, firstly, it picks up all the software that's been installed already, and it then also picks up which software are assigned to your email address. Now, obviously, you can log in. If you look at the image there at the bottom, you can log into this little app. It then recognizes the user and its assigned software. And then what it will do is it will filter all the updates based on that, as well as it will filter whatever software has been installed on that machine. In this case, if you look at the on the left-hand side, there's AutoCAD, AutoCAD Architecture, Civil 3D, and Revit LT. Those icons have been installed, and it then has the relevant updates based on that piece of software. So basically, to update that Civil 3D, you would just click on that little update button. It'll kind of download in the background and install that app or update. All right, so that is a valuable tool to keep your software stable and updated, and that would solve a lot of instabilities and that sort of thing. All right, now also it allows you to think of the updates that you download. Maybe there's a multiple users that are in the office, and it'll impact if each one downloads the same updates amongst, say, 10 users. It's a lot of bandwidth and a lot of information that needs to be downloaded. So within this little app, if you go to your profile, I just kind of backtracked. If you go to your profile, there's a little settings area, and then within the settings, the first user, you can now set this up for in the example, the 10 users, and the first user will then download the particular update, and it can then be saved locally on the local network. And then the other 9 users will then access that same directory, and the app will then look at that particular directory instead of downloading the software. So you'll basically just download the app update once for the first user, and then the other 9 users will get the update on the local network, and it'll install. Right, this Autodesk Desktop app also allows you to set so that it updates itself, because that's also important sometimes. All right, so it's a nice little manager that will allow you to manage a lot of users if you are in that role. Right, also another task that you can accomplish with this Autodesk Desktop app is you can install the new versions as they are released. In this little image, you'll see on the top left the little orange button. That is all the software that this particular person owns, and that I can install. Now you'll see some of these have already been installed, so you can just launch them. Alternatively, the others on the right-hand side hasn't been installed, so I can just simply click on the install icon, because that license is assigned to myself, and I can then install the software. All right, so it's a nice delivery system for end users to allow them to be firstly install the software nice and easy, and also keep their software updated. All right, within that profile as well, if you click on the, if I just backtrack again, if you click on your name at the top, it'll then, there's account details, and then you can obviously edit your email address and all of that, but it'll also allow you to access your products that are assigned to you. Now, that's now the topic of the next part for this discussion, is the Autodesk account. Now, within the Autodesk account, if I just go to the next area, so the Autodesk account is a web page, basically. Think of a user portal that allows you to manage your users, licenses, and see what usages or which users use what software. It can obviously be accessed via the desktop app, as I discussed, or you can go visit a website that you can then use to log in to this area. Right. In this little image here at the bottom, it just there's a little example of inviting a user within this website, and right, and then obviously you type in the name. Okay, but let's just an example here. Right, now the first thing that we can do with this Autodesk account is to download your software. So what would happen if you purchase the software? You'll get a welcome email from Autodesk, and in that email they'll say, all right, visit this Autodesk account, and within the Autodesk account you can then download the software and so forth. So the first thing is on the left hand side you'll see there's products and services. So if I visit that link, it'll then go and show all the softwares that I have or that I own, and you can basically expand the particular software. On the right hand side, click on download links or view downloads, and then from there download the actual install files, and also the updates. Even if you look on the left hand side, once again there's the product updates. Okay, so you can also visit the site to go and download the appropriate updates. All right, if I scroll down, or if I go to the next slide, you'll see these. This is an example of just a user that has been created. So remember earlier I mentioned that we can create users. So if you visit to on the left hand side user, and you kind of invite the user, they'll get an email and setting up their name and their username and password. And once they've logged in, they have an Autodesk account and they can download the software. But there are different roles in this whole setup. The main role is the contract manager, or these days they've renamed it to a primary admin. And then there's a secondary admin as well as users. Now, the screen that you see here is from the primary admin or contract manager, and they can invite users, set up the users, and also assign software to each user. Now, obviously, I've grayed out the username there, but if I visit a user, this particular user has been assigned a AEC collection, and I can unassign it if perhaps that person has left the company, or even I can assign additional or other software to this particular user. Once it's assigned to his name and email address, it'll pop up in the Autodesk Desktop account, or he can, or his account in the Autodesk account. So if he goes into this website here, he will then see the particular software downloads that he has been assigned, and he can actually download those softwares. All right, so just looking at getting back to this idea, yes, so there's roles. Obviously, if anything has changed, maybe the primary admin has left the company, you can always contact us and we can arrange that a new person gets assigned the primary admin. But typically, the primary or secondary admin can assign the roles and users and assign licenses to these users and manage the company that way. Right, and then an additional advantage to this whole system is that from within this Autodesk account, you can actually go and check the number of users that have used software in your company. So you can do validation to check. Obviously, if I've purchased, say, 10 licenses, how many has been used? Even if you have an architectural or an AEC collection that contains 20 odd pieces of software, you can actually go in and check how many AutoCADs have been used in the last 3 months, how many Revits have been used in the last 3 months, and then plan your purchases in future. It's a very valuable tool. Obviously, only the primary user has access to that. I think the secondary as well, secondary admin. But it has a nice planning. It's basically a planning tool for you to plan your purchases in future. All right. Okay, so that's in short just a brief little overview of the Autodesk account. The main idea is that there should be a primary user or primary admin, and then the users. This primary admin could set up all the users or invite all the users, assign licenses that the company owns to these users, and they will then be able to, via their own Autodesk portal or the desktop app, be able to download and install their own software. If you imagine, having an AEC collection and use an admin or an IT person needs to install 20 pieces of software to this end user, it'll take you a while. So they will then visit their own little user portal, know which software they require, and then be able to download the appropriate software that they need. Right. Okay. And then the conclusion. Basically, we've discussed now most of the roles and the assignment of the licenses, how to update the software, even download the software from the Autodesk Desktop App. And just on the note, there's also now during lockdown, there's a couple of softwares that have been placed on an extended trial, meaning that it's not only 15 or 30 days trial, but a longer period. And that period ends on the 30th of June. And in particular, the BIM 360 design and docs that allow you as Revit users to within the AEC collection to communicate and with other Revit users, as also non-Revit users, but via the cloud. So it saves you from traveling to work, and in lockdown, that's very important. Right. So go and visit the extended trial period software and see if you can take advantage of that. All right. Okay, so I'm going to end there with questions. I don't know if there's any questions. Right, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you very much for attending, and I will see you soon.